Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the webinar. And we have a fabulous webinar today with some great panelists. We're going to be talking about creating a two-partner and through-partner marketing program for today's new normal. But before we get into introducing the panelists, let me just talk a little bit about the webinar and the way we'll structure it. This is very much a panel-based webinar. So this is your opportunity to ask your questions of our panelists. So please do get involved, do ask the questions, and we will then relay them to the panelists. And there are two ways to do that. You can virtually raise your hand, in which case you will be unmuted and you can ask your question live of the panelists, or alternately, you can ask via the question module. So simply go into the question module and type your question in there. I will pick up on those questions and relay those to our panelists. So again, I'll be talking about this during the webinar. Please do get those questions coming in. I know this is a really important topic for all of us. So without further ado, let me introduce our panelists. Our first panelist is Heather Margolis, and she is the CEO and founder of Spark Your Channel. She's also the founder and chairperson of Channel Maven Consulting. She's a recognized marketing expert and sought after keynote speaker. She's passionate about enabling vendors and driving revenue through channel partners. And she spent years in channel programs and marketing for big brand tech companies like EMC, Equal Logic, and Dell before starting her own business in 2009. Heather is a proud mum and an alumni of Babson's MBA program. She grew up in Massachusetts and now calls Boulder her home, where she lives with her husband and fellow entrepreneur Simeon and their two daughters and dog Zoe. So Heather, tell us a little bit about Spark.
Absolutely. So Spark takes all of the great content that vendors are producing for their end customers, video, webinars, podcasts, as well as static content that we've all been customizing for years, allows partners to add their own intro and outro once, and then they can customize all of that content over and over again without really having to add much of their own video. That renders in a trackable link and allows partners to put it wherever they'd like. Vendors can still get tracking information, number of clicks, domains, but the partner does not have to send it through our tool. They can send it however they'd like.
Excellent. And our second panelist is Mike Moore. And Mike is the VP of Channels for E2 Open. He's formerly a channel and field marketing professional at Microsoft, GE Healthcare, and Progress, and also involved in 3 channel partners prior to joining Microsoft. He's author of one of the only books on channel marketing, a book called Marketing Multiplied. Recommend you take a look at that. And he's currently working with E2 Open's channel customers to provide advice, coaching, and best practices on the strategy and tactics associated with their channel program. So Mike, tell us a little bit about E2 Open.
Thanks, Rod. Happy to join the panel here, so thanks for having us. E2 Open manages more than $2.5 billion of channel spend across our customers. So we're the largest provider of channel management solutions, things from MDF, co-op, rebates, incentives, channel marketing automation, and what I think is the most important piece is the channel data management. So gathering all that inventory data as well as sell-through data from the channel, bringing it in and making all the applications more intelligent because of it. So we do this for more than 130 high-tech customers today, and glad to be able to share that experience with the group today and offer some suggestions around channel marketing. So thank you.
Fabulous. Thank you very much, Mike. And our third panelist is Dan Overgag, and he's Managing Director of the Spur Group. He leads the firm's channel management, sales transformation, and business operations practices, and he has over 12 years experience. At Spur, Dan has led countless strategic initiatives for large technology firms, offering advice on channel management programs, channel incentives to help drive efficiency and develop program and portfolio management structures. Dan loves the Pacific Northwest and taking advantage of the wide variety of outdoor activities available. And during the lockdown, he's been spending this time working on his yard, no doubt a sea of beautiful flowers at the moment, and keeping his kids from destroying the house. So Dan, tell us a little bit about Spur.
Yeah, good morning. Thanks, Rod. Excuse me. So Spur Group is a consultancy based in the Pacific Northwest, and we focus exclusively on a vendor company's go-to-market efforts. So looking at their sales and marketing efforts, optimizing their channel and making sure that their partners are doing the best they possibly can be, and then leveraging data in our data and analytics practice to both kind of maximize the data that a partner or a vendor is getting from their partners, and then using that to make more insightful decisions. So very happy to be with this panel this morning and chat with you all.
Excellent. And our final panelist is Sal Patalano, and he's the partner and CRO of Mind Matrix. Sal's a serial entrepreneur. He's founded multiple IT companies. He was an IBM business partner for over 15 years as a system integrator and reseller. So Sal uniquely knows things from both sides of the house. He spent the last 13 years in various Fortune 500 executive channel roles, including IBM, CA, and Lenovo. He's listed as one of the top 100 most influential people in the channel, and is also a well-known public speaker, and very well known for putting a provocative twist on thought leadership. So Sal, tell us a little bit about Mind Matrix.
Well, thanks, Ron. I will. And by the way, guys, I like batting in the cleanup spot, number 4 slot. So appreciate the introduction. So a little bit about Mind Matrix. Company's been around about 22 years, focused on PRM solutions across SMB, mid-market, enterprise. And the company's primary focus really has always been around delivering the tools necessary for doing both to and through channel marketing and sales. And it's all been combined in a single platform that really is worth taking a look at. Oh, sorry, Rod, that was salesy. The 3 components include channel operations, automated marketing, and sales enablement. And we serve 2 markets, which I think is important for this audience, Rod. We serve both MSPs and we serve vendors. So we've got a unique perspective, having in excess of 500 MSPs that we serve and several hundred vendors as well. So we get a unique perspective across the aisle, so to speak. And we have just announced our Set the Bar campaign, which will formally be released in the 4th quarter, that is focused on some pretty dramatic changes to pricing and things like that, but we'll get into that a bit later. So I'm always flattered to be here with such a distinguished panel, and happy to provide whatever insight I can.
Fabulous. So without further ado, let's get into the webinar. I can't stress enough, this is your webinar, so please send those questions in. We've got some great panelists who are going to give you some really, really cool answers. But before we start, let's kind of level set where we all are. So I'd like to start with a couple of polls. And our first poll is trying to look at where we are budget-wise. So for the period September the 1st to December the 31st, 2020, the funds I have available for partner marketing are within plus or minus 5% of my 2019 funds. They've increased by 5 to 15%. They've increased by 15% plus, they've decreased by 5 to 15%, or they've decreased by more than 15% over 2019. So if everyone could please answer the question, get those votes coming in. Almost 50% of you have voted, so please do take a look at the question. This is really interesting, the responses we're getting at the moment. So now up to about 60% of people that have voted. So if those last 40% could push one of those lovely buttons, that would be very, very cool. So there's about 20% of you left still to vote. So please do come in and vote. We'll close the poll in 5 seconds. So last 5 seconds to get those all important votes in. Okay. Caleb, if you could share the results of the poll. So for 38% of it, it looks like budgets have remained pretty much the same as last year. 15% of us have seen a 5 to 15% increase. 10% of us are making everyone else very jealous because they've got a 15% plus increase in their budget. 16% have decreased by 5 to 15%, and 20% have seen a decrease of more than 15% over 2019. Mike, I don't know whether you want to come in with a couple of quick comments on this one.
Yeah, I mean, my general take here is that I'm not surprised. This is what we hear from our customers every day. Everybody's in a different situation. And I think it has a lot to do with what the COVID impact was on their business and how they're processing these changes during the course of 2020 and figuring out what it's going to mean for the rest of the year. Expense cutting is always part of that. You know, if we can make up the revenue and do some expense cutting, you know, maybe we make plan, but very few companies are 100% where they want to be. And sometimes marketing, unfortunately, you know, takes it out on us. So I think as it relates to partner marketing, you know, it just pushes us to be that much more creative and thrifty in many ways. So the things that we do spend money on, the things we spend our time on, are much more impactful than you know what we might have had pressure to do before.
Excellent. And Sal, do you want to add a few final comments on this one before we move on to the second poll?
Yeah, sure. I think it's a huge challenge. As a vendor, it's very difficult to reach out the way we used to. People are not at the same watering holes. So my comment, Rod, is that I think we are spending a bit more to try to find people where they are. You know, they're not at the office. They're not necessarily at trade shows other than virtual. So it's becoming more difficult. We've turned it into a forensic process, and I think that costs money.
Okay. So then let's ask another question of the audience. So Caleb, if you would like to put up the second poll. And the second poll is, my biggest partner marketing challenges are, and here you can check as many answers as you wish: getting my message through the clutter, helping my partners transition to digital marketing, increasing the number of partners using my marketing assets, making my co-op MDF program easy to use, and tracking the ROI of our partner marketing. So if everyone could please vote on that. And as I say, you can tick as many boxes as you wish this time round. So about 50% of you have voted already. Keep those votes coming in. We're now up to about 65% of you have voted. So we'll keep the poll open for a few more seconds. So last chance, everyone, to vote. Do pop those votes in. We'll close the poll in another couple of seconds. So last chance. Closing the poll now. Caleb, if you'd like to show the answers. So clearly, the biggest challenge is tracking the ROI of our partner marketing, followed by increasing the number of partners using my marketing assets. And then following that, helping partners transition, getting the message through the clutter. But most of us seem to think our co-op MDF program is relatively easy to use, judging by that answer. Dan, do you want to come in on this one?
Sure. You know, the ROI of partner marketing, that seems about right. I think this is not a new challenge, and it's something that I think vendors have been struggling with for years and years, whether it's digital or any otherwise. That certainly makes sense. And I think the MDF program ease of use one, that makes sense as well too. I think that co-op is slowly kind of moving away, and MDF is becoming a lot easier to use, and companies are stripping out the complexity around MDF, and so I kind of see that as the poll reflects not being a challenge right now.
Okay, and Heather, do you want to comment on this one?
Sure. I guess I would stress with our listeners to try to think about ROI in a different light. The reason that tracking ROI is such a challenge is that we're still trying to think about ROI the same way we did 10 years ago. So partners now have their own marketing automation tools. Partners now have access to marketing tools and are getting a little bit more savvy themselves. Not all of them, but some of them. So when we try to think about, well, I need to know exactly how many leads they started with and how many clicks they got and how many opens they got and how many registrations they got, the demand gen itself has shifted in that we're not asking people to sign up for assets. We're giving them the assets and building a rapport and building a thought leadership platform so that they keep coming back for more. We need to help partners do that and sort of let go of the old way of tracking ROI. Not completely, but I think that's the biggest challenge, is not that you can't track it, but that you're trying to when you shouldn't.
Okay, fabulous. And let's do our third poll before we get into the main body of the webinar. So what do we offer our partners? We currently offer the following marketing support: downloadable marketing assets, marketing automation, co-branding, email, etc., a marketing concierge service, marketing training, or virtual event help and support. And again, you can tick as many of these boxes as you wish. So please tick as many as you can. Keep those votes coming in. We've got about 50% of you have voted so far. So we'll keep the poll open. Keep them coming in. Close to 60% now of you have voted. So we'll hold the poll open for another 10 seconds to allow the rest of you to get those votes in. So closing the poll in 5 seconds. So last chance to get the vote in. Okay. Caleb, if you'd like to share the results. So virtually all of us have downloadable marketing assets, followed by marketing automation, 58%, and virtual event help and support, 58%. Be fascinating to see where that number was prior to the crisis. 42% of us are offering marketing training, and 32% marketing concierge service. So Sal, wonder if you'd like to comment on this one.
Well, I think this is indicative of the fact, Rod, that everyone has either gone out and built their own, or they've implemented third-party PRM solutions. And I think, I think that's the direction we're moving in. It's significantly more difficult over the last 10 years or so to manage a channel, particularly if it's a broad channel organization. There's a lot of work associated with it. And it's not something, we can do with spreadsheets and index cards anymore. So I think this points directly to the fact that PRM systems are being deployed and they're working, which I think is a good thing. I also think keeping marketing concierge service relatively low, again, is a good thing, because we're trying to drive automation, self-help, letting the partners do what they need to do independently. The one thing I find missing here that would probably be interesting is sales enablement. You could say marketing training, things like that, but there's a whole piece of this that goes around sales enablement, which would be interesting to get some information on. But again, I think these are plainly describing where the market's going, Rod.
Okay, and Mike, do you want to come in with a couple of comments on this one?
Yeah, I don't think there's any surprises around downloadable marketing assets, because if you think about a maturity model for channel marketing, for through partner marketing specifically, downloadable assets is really kind of the most basic level, and then you start getting into marketing automation. Where we find the marketing concierge service opportunity, especially this summer with COVID and really heading into this fall, is around those partners who may have had great success doing in-person events as their maybe one and only marketing tactic, who now need to evolve into driving more digitally oriented campaigns, hosting webcasts, things of that sort. The learning curve is pretty steep for a lot of those partners, and now is a really tough time to try to teach someone new skills, because everybody's prioritizing their time to try to make things happen. So the marketing concierge comes in as kind of a bridge to be able to teach them, do work for them. They learn through the process of working with a concierge, and hopefully achieve more independence like Sal was indicating in his comments. That's the long-term goal, obviously, is that partners can do all this on their own. But the reality is right now it's a really tough time to try to put that kind of pressure on them. Concierge does a lot to help with that.
Okay. Heather, do you want to add just a couple of comments on that?
Yeah, I guess I would, just on the concierge piece, I agree with Mike that it's important in the beginning because your partners potentially work with anywhere from 5 to 25 different vendors. So if your tool isn't the tool that they're using every day, like their own HubSpot or their own Constant Contact or their own MailChimp, then they're not going to remember from one time to another. And concierge becomes that much more important, at least to be able to answer those quick questions and make automation actually work, because they'll be able to use it the next time they come in or the third or fourth time they come in.
Excellent. I have a raft of questions already coming in, and I'll get to those in just a moment. But I want to start with a big question, and this is the only time I'm going to ask each of the panelists for their comments. And that is, we've gone through a period which is unlike any other, I think, any of us have lived through previously. Should that have changed our partner marketing goals? And if so, why and how? And Dan, if I could start with you on that one.
That's a really good question. I think it has changed, and I think it should change. We did a webinar, I don't know about a month ago, Rod, and one of the things that came out of that was what's happening right now with the environment and with COVID. It seems to have accelerated a lot of kind of in motion activities around the channel, and I kind of feel the same way about digital marketing. That I think the push and the rush to digital marketing now is probably just being accelerated by the current times versus is a catalyst. So I think that kind of like what we saw with partners 7-8 years ago, that there are going to be partners that are going to be able to make the shift to digital marketing, and there's going to be partners that aren't, and that churn is going to be okay. There's going to be partners that are going to thrive coming out of this, and they're going to learn how to adapt and live with this digital age, and there's going to be partners that aren't. And so I think for vendors, the important thing is to not worry about every partner, but really try to focus on the ones that are going to make that shift and that are going to be successful in this new world, and really focus investment and co-marketing efforts and to, through, and with partner marketing efforts on those partners, and know that there are going to be partners that aren't going to make the shift, that aren't going to be successful in the digital marketing age, and be okay with that.
Excellent. And Mike, do you want to come in on that one?
Yeah, and I think in a lot of ways, the changes that we're seeing, as Dan indicated, there are things kind of accelerating what was going to happen. But at the same time, I think the prioritization that we see go to happen in the channel with a lot of the brands thinking about, what do we really need to communicate? If partner mindshare is at an all-time low because everybody's prioritizing basic human needs, right, and their family and keeping people safe, as we're kind of coming out of that in the United States and getting back to school and whatever form that's going to take, you still have to prioritize. So I think people need to retool their strategy a bit and figure out, like, if I'm going to ask partners to do one thing between now and Christmas, what is it? And how do I articulate the value of doing that in a way that is value in their terms, not in my own self-interest? Because too often brands just take it for granted that partners understand these things. And I think your two-partner communication really needs to be reshaped around the value to the channel partner and ultimately their end customer. Because if you're not helping to tell that story and earning the business and earning the partnership through the way you communicate that value, then they're going to reject it, right? The partners, they're prioritizing every minute of their day trying to serve the needs of their customers. Every minute they spend with you is a minute they're away from customers or prospects. So what value are you going to give them for that? And I think that's maybe a very cynical point of view in one way, but I would say the presentation of that information to the partners should be super positive, optimistic, uplifting, and if you can make it happen without being needlessly, circus-like, I think you should try to make it fun. So how can you make it fun and engaging? How can you bring some levity back into the channel? You can run a fun program or contest this fall that will engage channel partners, that will uplift them, that will make them feel optimistic, and most importantly, generate results, help them meet new customers and prospects, actually sell solutions that are going to help people, give them something to feel hopeful about. And I think that you'll really win with the channel.
And Sal.
Well, first of all, I like I like what Mike said. I like the levity part. You guys know me, you know that I always think that's storytelling and levity is always very important. But here's the thing. Mike said something that's spot on. We were already in transition, Rod, and anybody who's listening in on this webinar knows that. This transition was taking place, just like many transitions we've seen, from retail to transportation to entertainment. A lot of this was in place, and this, unfortunately, the situation is accelerating things. But, here's the thing. As a vendor, and I'm going to put on my Lenovo hat now, or my IBM or my CA hat when we were running channels there. As a vendor, now's really the time to determine which of your channel partners are really committed to you and committed to your product and are looking to give you mind share and wallet share. Now, I'm not saying we come in there with tough love, but I guess I am saying that we come in there with a little bit of tough love. I mean, we all carry these big tails, right? We have, 80-20 rule, we have partners up here, and then it cuts down to this long tail of partners. And for 30 years, all we've been hearing is, we're dragging the tail, we're dragging the tail. Look, there comes a point in time where we have to stop trying to teach people to fish if they're not listening, right? We're doing everything we can to enable them. I know amongst the four of us on this call, throughout the last 20 years of our careers, I venture to say there's been hundreds of millions of dollars combined in our collective careers and businesses that we have spent trying desperately to teach the partners what we think works. And if we've got it wrong, listening to them and changing over our methodologies based on what the channel's been teaching us. And I think we're at a point in time now where partners are going through a difficult period, vendors are going through a difficult period, and at what point do the two of them come together? Well, the point at which they cross over is the point of commitment, right? The vendor's commitment to the partners and the partner's commitment back to us. You can only chase so hard. You can only push so hard. So, now is the time to fish or cut bait. I think if you're a vendor and you're out there, I would seriously say, think about this. It's a little harsh, but, give it some thought. See if it makes sense for your business.
Excellent. And Heather, final few comments on this one. Should your partner marketing goals have changed?
Yeah, so I think I agree with what everyone is saying. The beauty of what has come out of this really tumultuous year is that people are being more authentic. They're asking for your connection. They're asking for your feedback. They're telling you that they're trying to sell you something instead of, smoke and mirrors and trying to make it seem like they're just befriending you. I think on the vendor side, we're really seeing a huge uptick in the vendors who have been holding off on engaging on social are now like, okay, now I need to engage my partners more on social and be where they are. To Sal's point, what water coolers are they already hanging out at? And then on the partner side, for years from Channel Maven, we've been educating partners through the vendor, and the partners go, yeah, I get all my business through word of mouth. Now they're coming back and saying, what was that you were saying about SEO? And what was that you were saying about LinkedIn? And how do I better socially sell? So I think this has forced us to accelerate that shift that we were already in the process of.
Excellent. I've got a ton of questions coming through from the audience, so let me dip into those for a second. And the first is a question about how do you break through the noise? And the question is, we're seeing less and less engagement with our emails and other communications with partners. Have you seen any examples of great ways of breaking through the noise? So, Mike, I see you nodding. Maybe if I can start with you on that one.
Yeah, and I feel, and my colleagues here, I think, make fun of me because I bring this article that I wrote like a year and a half ago up all the time, but I think it's still super relevant. Many of us have kids who play this video game Fortnite. And if your kids are like my 13-year-old son, they know that a new season of Fortnite starts at the end of this week. And they are pumped, right? Because they still got a couple more weeks before school here in the Boston area. So he can't wait to play because there's going to be new content, new challenges, new prizes, all kinds of new stuff. So I wrote an article. It's on my LinkedIn. You could find, Fortnite, or just Google Fortnite channel marketing and probably find it. But I go through kind of breaking down how this video game is they've taken a lot of concepts, been around for a long time in promotions, and boiled it into a multi-billion-dollar video game business. A lot of those principles can be extracted and used in channel marketing. Fun is a big piece of it, exclusive content, timeliness of content, incentives, not just incentives for crossing the goal line at the end, but taking little steps along the way and reinforcing the behaviors we want to see from channel partners. These are the things that, if I think of some of the most successful promotions I ran when I was at Microsoft, and I was there for 11 years, worked with a lot of different types of partners. We ran promotions all the time, and some of them were really successful, and some of them were just kind of very mundane. The ones that stand out in my memory from when I was a channel partner or working on the brand side of the table are the ones that had a fun, big concept to it. And you can get by with doing these programs for very cheap in terms of dollars, but I think you really have to push your creativity as if you were doing customer-facing marketing when you're doing your channel campaigns and programs. Put a theme around it, make it a fun contest. When you're doing a webcast and you're talking about the results or doing a video you're going to send out to partners, it has to have high energy, not over the top energy, but kind of high energy, fun communication, again, positive, uplifting. Nobody wants to be around negativity this year. We've had enough, right? So where can you be the light in the darkness here and kind of help people? That's where I think you got to position your partner communications. And I'll just close with, I love a tool called Vidyard, Vidyard. There's a free Chrome extension. You can record a little screencast video and put a thumbnail in an email and send it straight away to your partners. It's a really easy way to record a quick little snippet, give them some energy, push it through the camera, and send that out to them, communicate the latest program updates, give them some kudos, some rewards, stoke that fear of missing out. All those elements can come through in those little packages. So I could go on and on, but I'll stop there.
Okay. Anyone else want to come in with a couple of examples of great things they've seen people breaking through the clutter?
Yeah, I'll throw something out there that might be helpful to the folks listening in. And I don't want to give away too much because we're working with this now, but I mentioned watering holes before, and Heather changed it to the water fountain. So it's about the same thing. Here's what I would suggest everyone think about. Where the people you want to get to, where are they? They're at home. Okay, we got that. Where else are they? Right? I spend my weekends in and out of Home Depot and Lowe's. A lot of my friends are still out playing golf. Okay, people are listening, drive time listening to NPR and some of the top news stations way up. So again, start thinking about where people are. And once you can determine where you think your target audience, your persona group is at, figure out a creative way to get to them there. And then all the stuff Mike pointed out is spot on. But you got to get through the clutter. I'm getting 10 pieces a day in my inbox from LinkedIn and a bunch of other stuff, and I just don't have time. I'm deleting. There's probably great stuff in there, Rod, right? Now, if you could get to me, I'm joking a little bit here, but maybe not, get to me as I'm walking into Home Depot or walking out, you're going to get my attention on a Saturday. So again, I'm being a bit facetious, but I'd suggest to everyone listening in, find the watering holes, then implement what Mike's talking about, the positive way to get to them. So something to think about.
Okay, and I've got a question on marketing training. We've got a great marketing training program, but we're having terrific difficulty getting our partners to take the course. Dan, any thoughts or suggestions on ways to increase partner participation in that kind of activity?
Yeah, there's probably a couple of things going on. Typically, when you don't see uptick like that, it's that partners aren't finding it valuable. So it's probably a matter of examining what it is that you're doing and better articulating the value that a partner gets. A lot of times, even what Mike and Sal were talking about, if partners don't see the value, or if it's not relevant to them, they're not going to read it, they're not going to participate in it. So take a look at the efforts that you're doing and really think hard about what is the partner getting out of this? What does this allow them to do? how does this make their job easier? How does this get them new leads or new customers or drive usage or adoption, whatever the thing is? But really, think hard about, why is a partner going to care? And then once you've understood that and you really understand that partner value and that partner value proposition, then create your marketing around that and then promote your training around that concept. Because I think more often than not, it's a scattershot approach. We have partner marketing training, but partners don't care because they don't understand why it's going to help them or how it's going to help them. So if I was to offer a piece of advice, it would be get really crisp, really clear on the value that partner's going to get out of it, and then promote it that way, and likely you'll see an uptick.
Okay, and just very quickly for Mike, what was the Chrome video extension you mentioned? So if you could just let the audience have that once more, Mike.
Yeah, there's a company called Vidyard, Vidyard, and if you look in the Chrome extension store, you should find it. There's another one called Soapbox from a company called Wistia. So look for Soapbox or Vidyard. They're both good tools to record it. If you really, I'll do a commercial for Heather's company too, if you want. If you really want to do this at scale, go to look at Spark Your Channel, right? Because they have the ability to customize video at scale and kind of run big campaigns around this, which I think is a great tool. But the little personalized videos I find, for partner communications are super easy and very successful.
Excellent. And actually, here is a question, I think, which is good for Heather. We all say it, but what do we really mean by authentic? And can you give specific examples?
Yeah, I mean, I think, look at us right now, right? Dan sitting outside somewhere or just outside a window. We're seeing into people's homes. We're seeing people's kids. I had a moment a bit ago, I had to mute because I was worried my 2-year-old was going to run in potentially naked. And people are just getting used to being a little less professional. Normally we would be doing, first of all, normally we would be doing this at a live event, right? We'd all be on stage. Sal would have one of his awesome ties on. Or we would be doing this heavily produced. One of us would have gone to a studio with lights all over the place, although I do, being authentic, have my lights on. But I think people are just being more honest about the situations that they're in, and that they are home and that they are doing things off the cuff, like using their phone to create a video or Zoom to create an event.
Excellent. And I have a live question coming in from Brad Wittenkeller of Siemens. So Brad, I'm about to unmute you if you'd like to. You're self-muted, Brad. So Brad, if you could take off your mute and I can unmute you. Okay, we'll try and figure that out in just a moment. Technology not working. Moving on to the next one. If we're asking partners to move to digital marketing, what are the 2 or 3 marketing activities that we should be focused on? And Sal, maybe I can come to you on that one.
This is interesting. What are the activities we should have them focused on? Well, what I would suggest is something we did at Lenovo. We tried to get our partners to follow a parallel path to what we were doing with digital marketing. So we didn't necessarily come in and teach them ground up how to do this and that. We sort of did, sort of a ride along, right? We said to them, here's what's working for us. Here's what you should do as well. Here's the campaigns we're running. Here's how we're communicating. Here's how our SEO is set up. Here's what we're doing on the Twitter feeds and social. And we suggested that the partners parallel us. It's working, right? Give it a shot. And along the way, they picked up the skills that they needed to do it. So we didn't come in and say, here's how to do this, here's how to do that, and then leave them there and they're saying, well, wait a minute. Okay, you showed me how to do it, but I'm not really sure what I should be putting in terms of content, my timing, release dates. So we just had them parallel us and the stuff we were doing around social and LinkedIn, et cetera, et cetera. And it would, for the partners that we did it with, it was a pilot, it was quite successful. That'd be my recommendation.
Anyone else want to come in quickly on that one?
Well, I think we see a lot of companies spending money on advertising, search and social advertising through channel partners. The thing I always worry about is, where are we linking back to with those ads? So I think there is a hierarchy or maturity model again for kind of partner marketing where the website has to be in good order. So partners usually need to freshen up and kind of keep their website lively. And the website obviously should have information about them and what they do, but also include content from the brands that they carry. More than just a superficial logo wall. Everybody can do kind of NASCAR style page, but pick the top 5 or 6 lines that they carry, and the partner should have content about them. Now, tools like what we offer give syndicated website content. So the brand can put a piece together that is going to be embedded into the partner's website. The brand can manage it to make sure it's always up to date. So that to me is another fundamental piece. Partners need to have social presence, and they need to actually contribute content to their social presence, not just set up a Twitter or a LinkedIn company page and just leave it stagnant. They need to have a regular cycle. And I'll hold back on another idea because I know we're going to do a lightning round later, but I'm going to hold back on my top idea. But I think it's foundation pieces that partners really need to put in place. The role of the brand is to act as the coach and mentor in getting partners there, and to Sal's point, modeling the behavior of what we want to see the channel partners do, using it in our communications with them, and then showing them what good looks like so that they know what the destination is.
Okay, and here I think is a really good one for you, Dan. Many times before we can provide marketing initiatives to or through partners, we need to do training and get buy-in with the internal sales team. Any tips for getting your internal sales team to prioritize the delivery of these programs?
Yeah, I guess when I'm taking away from that question is that when we're talking about internal sales team, we're talking about direct sellers versus indirect sellers. Is that kind of the take?
I think they're talking about the channel account management team and how they communicate the programs to the partners, Dan.
Okay. I would go back to what I said earlier. I think that it's important to highlight and articulate the value and the relevancy to partners, and make sure that the partner account teams are equipped with that information, so that as they go to push any sort of program, they are accurately and articulating why a partner should care and why they should participate, and make sure that you're arming the partner account teams with that information as well as pushing it through your own marketing engines. But the account teams need to be an extension of your partner account or your partner marketing efforts.
Hey Rod, can I just throw one sharper point on what Dan just said, because I agree with that. The other thing I think vendors should keep in mind is when you go about doing sales training for your partners, use a sales enablement tool that trains your internal sales team, your CAMs, or anyone else you have, in the exact same manner as you train your partners. Don't have separate programs. Train them the same way, which, again, is a tool that a number of us in the PRM space have. And therefore, you get them speaking the same language, right? And while there's always going to be some resistance, you'll find that if one person's speaking English and the other is speaking French, it's awfully difficult to overcome any imaginary boundaries or tensions. If we're all speaking the same language, that takes one of the big impediments away. So look for a sales enablement tool or something, from the PRM side that allows you to do it once, build it, do it once, and do it the same way for your team and your channel partners' teams.
I like that, Sal. And I had another thought too, Rod, that I think helps make that training more relevant, and that you can use your partner account teams is getting really crisp on where your partners are at, kind of within their partner journey, because you don't want to just blast so much training at a partner that it just becomes overwhelming and it becomes cluttered. We've talked about that clutter problem, and so you want to make sure that you're focusing partners on training that's going to be relevant for where they're at in their kind of partner journey. So if they're a relatively new partner, you want to get them focused on transacting well and sales. If they are a really long, have a long longevity with your company, you want to be focusing them on solution selling and broadening of solutions and technical enablement and customer success in the long terms. And so your partner account teams can help guide the kind of the focus of the training that you're pointing your partners toward, and be, enablers of that conversation and discovering kind of and getting crisp on where your partners are at in their journey.
Okay, and I've got another great question coming in, which could probably be the subject of an all-day debate. How much of this is changing as new leaders move into new leadership roles? The different generations have a different expectation of their vendors, and how should the vendor respond to this? So Heather, let me...
I'd love to jump on that as a cusper. I'm on the cusp of being a millennial, and my siblings are millennials. I think it's really important for us to first look at how sales enablement and demand generation have shifted for that younger, and we're not that young anymore, right? Like, I'm in my 40s, user, and think about what is going to impact them. The decision maker in the buying journey is probably still an executive, but the influencer and the information gatherer and all of those people are of a younger generation. They don't want to read a 15-page ebook. They don't even want to look at a one-page data sheet. They want to watch video, they want to listen to podcasts, and they want to see testimonials from either a partner who is using your content or a customer who has used your solutions. We talk a lot about less on the end-to-end campaign, while that still matters to the partner's marketing team if they have one. From a sales enablement perspective, instead of all these smoke and mirrors and saying, hey, look at this content that I created, when in fact it's very obvious that the partner did not create it. Instead saying, look at this great content from vendor XYZ who I partner with, because I have all these decisions that I could have partnered with lots of other vendors, but I'm endorsing them, and this piece of content is going to help educate you. I think it's also really important for the vendors of you listening to create content that's about business outcomes and solving pain points, not about your speeds and feeds, and to make sure that it's something that a partner could very quickly endorse and send out. It doesn't have to have all of this overwhelming, it looks like the partner did it, but we know they didn't do it. So I think it's about, again, being more authentic, being more honest about where the content came from, ensuring that the partners can use it, and the right type of content. You have to provide partners with video that they can add their contact info to.
Cool. And then I've got another question which kind of piggybacks on that one, and that is, we're told we need to encourage partners to be helpful and not sell. Can the panel give examples of this? Mike, you're smiling, so maybe I can come into you with that one.
Yeah, and it's something that you mentioned the book that Peter Thomas and I wrote at the top. We wrote about this in kind of aligning partner marketing with the buyer's journey. So what are the behaviors that buyers go through now? It's learning, shopping, buying. That's the kind of progression that people would go through. So when you want to attract people is in that learning mode, or the awareness stage, as some people may call it, in the buyer's journey. The way you do that is by offering helpful content that talks about the problems that people have in the world and how they solve them in general, but not specifically about products that you offer. So what does that look like? If you talk about something like what we're doing here today, people are struggling around channel marketing and driving partner engagement. How do they solve it? What advice do people like us offer them? Eventually, I'll bridge that conversation into what specifically E2Open could do about that if they want to subscribe to our software, if they want to work with our professional team of experts, blah, 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 right? But nobody wants to hear that initially, right? If you were going to go buy a boat and you knew nothing about boats, you probably would not start your journey by walking into a sales room and hearing, the big presentation from the specific boat manufacturer, right? You'd go to the web, you'd Google things, you'd read some guides, you'd get some basic information, you'd watch some YouTube. So same kind of thing needs to be applied to the buyer's journey for your products and services that you offer through channel partners, and how you position that high-level content that's going to help them personalize that message, tell their own story, and deliver that through campaigns and tools that you offer is really how you get them engaged. But the general mantra here is helping, not selling. And if you live that in the way that you help your partners, those who teach earn the right to sell. Those who help earn the right to sell. These are, kind of my mantras that I use, right? But that's the mentality that you can approach it with and help position partners to be successful. Because as Heather indicated, people are being more forthright about their sales pitch, but nobody really wants to hear it. Everybody's easily blocked, right? Never going to see them, going to go to junk mail. So position yourself as being truly helpful in an authentic way. Again, one of Heather's points, and people will believe you. You'll build trust, you'll build loyalty and connection. But then when the timing is right and people are shopping, they will come back to the people like you that they trust. And that would be your channel partners.
Okay. Dan, do you want to come in on that one?
You know, I think that Mike stated it really well, that the way you be helpful is not making it about your specific solution, but around the topic at large. And just like we're doing today, you know, we're doing this to be helpful. And I think that partners can do the same. And, you know, we want them to encourage them to partake in like Sal was saying, a water cooler or a watering hole conversation first and foremost, and offer guidance and advice and tidbits. And eventually those will turn into a sales conversation, and your content should reflect the same. You know, Mike, you touched on it earlier, is that, you know, you've got websites and you've got things that you're pushing out with links, but all that has to be backed up by substantial content and thoughtful content about, you know, the industry or the solution or the problems that you're helping solve. And so, yeah, all that to say, I agree with Mike. That was well said.
If I could just super quickly tie together. Sorry, Sal, go ahead.
Oh, go ahead, Heather. Go ahead, please.
We talked about training and making training easier to access. I would suggest really short videos, 3 to 5 minute videos about different topics, and one of them being almost a sales training or a, you know, say this, not that. And if the vendors can provide partners with that, I think it's super helpful. That also involves your channel sales team, right? So teaching the channel sales team becomes the teacher of the partner, so then they have a vested interest in the partners doing well.
Well, I think this is a very important topic. And Dan, just for the record, you talked about us doing this today because we're helping. The rest of us are getting paid for this, so it just might be. I'm joking. That's just a joke to those listening. The one thing I wanted to say, just one word. Heather talked about it, and I've spoken about this on stage. Rod, I've done it at a number of your events as well. The word is outcome, right? Today, whether it's a younger generation, boomers, X, it doesn't matter. We have shifted our focus as consumers and as buyers to the outcome. People don't care anymore what the software is. They don't care about the hardware platform. To some extent, they're not even interested in the services early on or halfway down the sales cycle. What they want to know about, they're buying an outcome, not even a solution, it's an outcome. And the best example I like to use is expense management. We all have it. We travel or used to travel. We take our expenses, we photocopy them, we put them in. 30 days later, lo and behold, the money shows up direct deposit. I don't know what software is running that. I don't know where the platform's running. I don't know any of the processes, but I know I'm getting the outcome I need. And I think everyone needs to think about the outcome because, you know, Heather's a cusper, but I guarantee you when Heather goes out and makes a purchase personally, she's starting with the outcome. What is it she wants to accomplish? And I'll tell you, we all work our ways back from there, my personal belief.
Okay, we're almost out of time. We promised you lightning moments. So some great ideas from each of our panelists. Mike, you mentioned it earlier. We talked about it in the prep. Over to you.
Okay, so your partners, they need a website, they need social. Blog should be either part of their website or part of their LinkedIn presence. But I would say every single one of your partners needs to create a podcast. And I'd say in most cases, podcasts will be easier to create content around than a blog because most people are not inclined to sit down and write 500 to 600 words. There's a podcast platform, super easy to use. It's called Anchor FM, Anchor like the boat anchor.fm. They have a mobile app. Partners can talk into it and record their podcast and then produce it on the platform. It goes out to Spotify, iTunes, all that kind of stuff. So create a little engagement program around a podcast. What would you talk about? How would you publish it? What's the process for doing that? Guide them, teach them, show them how it's done, build those skills, have them create content in the real world. Nobody will know about it if it's bad because they haven't announced it yet. When it gets good and they're ready, then have them tidy it up and release it to their customers and prospects. So podcasting needs to be on everybody's agenda, and getting partners to do it and share all the great experience they're building is a real opportunity.
Fabulous. Sal, a great, very specific idea for the people in the audience.
Make a list of the most difficult challenges you have day in and day out with your channel. Try to keep it under 5. The things that give you headaches, keep you up at night, are costing you money, are getting your processes stuck, partners are complaining about. Make a list of the worst 5. Look for ways to automate those, whether you chose to build it yourself, you go out and buy a product, whatever it is you need to do, get to that list, because that's what's giving you the hardest time. And sometimes we don't think about that. We gloss over. Find a tool or tools that solve that problem. Automate.
Heather.
I would say, take all of your direct content, videos, webinars, podcasts, and see if they are useful to partners. Allow partners to put their contact info, whether it's with us or somebody else, or you do it in an automated or a manual way. Let partners add their contact info to all of that great content that your CMO's team is creating, so that they can send that out. They can then fill the funnel. Most of the content we have today sort of hits the buyer in the middle of their buyer's journey, but we're not helping partners fill the funnel. So they need things like 2-minute videos, podcasts, webinars.
Excellent. And last but by no means least, Dan.
You know, I'm going to kind of go back to something I said earlier. I think that for me, what I would say is really take a look at the value that partners are getting from your work, either to or through or with partner marketing efforts, and ensure clarity and consistency on that message. I think that otherwise it becomes clutter and partners won't pay attention. So really articulate well and strongly the value for partners, and they'll either amplify it, they'll push it, they'll leverage, they'll co-market it, but they need to understand and appreciate and be clear on the value that they're getting out of any marketing efforts.
Fabulous. We're pretty much out of time. I've got at least 15 questions that haven't been answered by the panel. They have promised that they will provide those answers to us. We will be able to post them on the website by the end of tomorrow. So we will post a recording of the webinar and also the answers to the questions we haven't been able to get to. I apologize for that, but there's just been a fabulous interaction with the audience. So great job to members of the audience for coming in, and a huge thank you to some wonderful panelists, to Sal, to Heather, to Mike, and to Dan. Great contributions, really, really great ideas. And as you leave the webinar, we will ask you to complete a survey. This is very, very important to us. We really want to know how we're doing. And to encourage you to do that, everyone who completes the survey will be entered in a draw for a $100 Amazon card. So you can have yet another one of those Amazon deliveries coming to your front door if you complete the survey. But Sal, Heather, Mike, Dan, great input, great ideas. I'm sure I speak for the whole audience. Thank you so very much.
Thank you.
Yeah, my pleasure. Thanks.
Thanks, everyone.